as a instructor, when I'm writing, I constantly hear, like, even as a writer, I meet individuals that say, yo, I got a story to tell. Okay, what makes your story so different? You know, and they'll say, well, oh, it's about this, all about, well, I've heard that story 100 times already. That story is not different. But what I'm really implying is your story is so different because it's your story. It's like no one can tell that story but you. No one has that story but you. It's kind of like your fingerprint, right?
Or so no one can tell that story like you can.
No one can tell that story like you can, right? So when they don't see that component of it to even challenge me, and it's kind of like I have broken them down, and it gives me space to build them up so they can go and write their story, right? So how do you cut through the noise? Because no one can tell my stories like I can. That's how I cut through the noise. There's no one like Deri Tyton on this planet at all. And I'm going to write the stories that I want to tell. I'm going to write the stories that I feel like need to be out there. But at the same time, I became a screenwriting instructor so I can help those. Listen, it is some very valuable stories that need to be heard, right? But they don't know how to write them. I want to hear those stories. If I can go through at least 50 stories right now from students that I work with, and you would be blown away by these stories, right? So, but the most important part is, if you only write the first 45 pages and you don't know how to finish the rest of the story, then that's a story sitting on a digital bookshelf. That's a story sitting in somebody's mind taking up space. That story will then return to the ether and given to someone else to bring it to light. And you will say to yourself, hey, that's my story. And you will try to probably sue and think somebody stole it, you know, and do things like that. But that's how I cut through the noise. Not only defining myself as no one is like me, but helping other writers to believe that no one is like them. So my book is called The Film Mechanics Screenwriting's Workbook. And it is a book that I wrote. Okay, so let me explain how this book came to play, right? So I have like all of these books that I've read on screenwriting that talks about how to do, what theme is, what genre is, what structure to use, what dramatic irony is, what red herring is, like all of these literary devices. Like that, you have like all of these books, character development, story development, and all these questions on how to be analytical about your character, be descriptive about the character, like all of this stuff, right? All this information on inner goals and outer goals, and like, you know, like all of these, the inner journey and outer journey and all these different things, right? So you can read every single book you want to read, and all of it is just information. But the information never told me literally how to write a screenplay using all this information. So what I did was I said to myself, okay, I know this, but I don't know how all of it go together. I would write screenplays trying to use every single little piece of information from all these books. I'm going through Story by Robert McKee. I'm in the Sia Fields book. I'm over here in Christopher Vogler book. I'm like combining all these, Christopher Riley, the Hollywood Standard book. I'm in
Save the Cat.
Yeah, Save the Cat. Dave Trotter book, Michael Haig book. I'm in John Truby book. I'm in
Stephen
like
Pressfield.
I'm like all these books, right? But they telling me how to write, but I don't feel like I have a complete writing process. So thus comes the Film Mechanics Screenwriting Workbook, right? I put together a process that can help writers. I wanted to start off with, some start with characters, some start with story. I wanted to start with story. That book goes from the idea all the way to a screenplay. And it shows you how to get there. It shows you in Hollywood what they do in order, because a lot of times most people think they're writing a film, they're writing a screenplay about this character. When you watch a Hollywood film, you're watching themes take place. You're not watching characters, you're watching perspectives take place. Viewpoints take place. And those take precedence over everything else. This is how you know. So now, as a writer, I give my character my perspective of how I feel, my ideas, my emotions, my thoughts, like all of these different things, right? So I'm gonna get that character, and that character has a goal, and that character's gonna use that thing or those things and go all the way to the goal. So when you walk out of there, you don't think about the actual goal. You think about, oh, that character, you know, was like, he had to overcome everything, you know. He had to overcome racism. He had to overcome, you know, battles at home with his wife. She had to overcome alcoholism with her husband. You know, that's what, you know, you're thinking. So as you think that, you're overcoming adversity. So they're planting a seed in your head of overcoming adversity, which is your what? Theme, right? Love conquers all, right? When a mother, or when you watch movies like Taken, you know, like the love for your daughter is going, you know, you're going to go to another country, kick everybody's ass, and, you know, you're going to find her, you're going to save her, you're going to, look, he didn't even try to save nobody else's daughter. He went and got, because love conquers all. Themes. You stand up, so that's the most important part. So when I got into writing, I started to figure out like a process of writing. I go from story to characters to genre. Didn't know about genre conventions. Okay, genre conventions are really pertinent to telling a story. So now stories have genre conventions. You need these things in order for your film. You know, you don't need a sci-fi cowboy shoot 'em ups a musical that happens in the psychological realm of a thriller.
That's where it seems a lot of movies fail, when they don't know what genre they're in, or try to mash up too many genres
at one time, right? And then they try to mash up too many themes at one time. They want the mother-daughter theme, along with the overcoming adversity theme, along with the battling internally self theme, with this other thing. So now, how do you simplify all of those things to get your story complete? It needs a process. Now, my process is just one process. Other writers have their own process. But for those writers, those new writers, or those writers who not only just learn how to write, but want to become better writers, this is one process that can start you on that path. So that's what my workbook is. That's what the Film Mechanic Screenwriting Workbook is. It's a process before the writing. Instead of you just going into the screenplay, writing screenplay, getting to page 56, and then it's put somewhere else. And now another idea, and another idea, and another idea, and another idea, and another idea is taking over that space now. Yet, that same idea is sitting in the back of your head is holding space. You need to know your goal. Like, you know your goal in life? Like, your goal in life is to live a very prosperous life, because one day we all gonna die. We born to die. So know your ending before you start writing. So that way you can spend the rest of your story getting there. Most writers write the same exact story, just in different ways. They use the same exact themes in different ways, right? And they have the same, you know, the goal may change, but the theme don't change, because that's what you live. You know, it made me think. My first film was called Welcome to the South Side, about a female drug dealer who falls in love with a poet, right? My second movie was about the Party Line, which was like a dating line service in Chicago. And then my third movie was called Love Bones, which was about a father who raised his daughter. The mother gets out of jail and kills the daughter, right? So, and then you have. So now I'm about to start recycling my films, right? So the next film I did after that was about Finding Forever in Love, about a poet who falls in love with a drug dealer. Now 101 Ways to Date with No Money is about dating in the technology age. It's what's inside of you that keeps recycling. Is like you can come up with the most interesting story that's far way out, and then in 10 years you can come up with Another story that's like really close to home, but when you look at both of those stories, they both gonna have some similarities to it because it comes from you. You know, like your experiences and your knowledge and your value system and your belief, they only go so far. You know, you're not gonna be a Christian today and an atheist tomorrow. And even if you did, that'd be the two things that you talk about in those two different films.
And you can see that in everyone from Spike Lee to Scorsese to Cuarón.
They write the same exact film over and over and over again. You know what I'm saying? It's just they just package it different with different characters. Some of the themes are kind of uniquely different. Of course, Spike deals with a lot of race stuff. He deals with social classes a lot of times. So yes, Tom Brady. Right? I'm just going to use him as an example. Last pick. Last round. Wasn't that great. Good, but not great. Work every day. Learning how to be better at what? Technique. You got enough talent because you went to Michigan. You got enough talent because you was drafted to the NFL. But in order to stay at a high level, talent won't keep you at a high level. Because attrition starts to take over. You become slower. Your mind works faster because you're more wiser. You're more understanding. You see things more clear. But the thing of it is you have to learn how to battle with this component of it. How to battle with somebody who's 22, 23 years old, moving faster than you ever seen move before. You saw two people move like that 10 years ago on your team. Now you got 7 of them at one time coming at you. That's completely a different way of having to deal with things, right?
But because of the mind knowing I've been in 100 scenarios of having the ball under 2 minutes and having to march down 90 yards.
Right.
I already know what to do.
I know what to do. So it's not so much as talent, that's technique. That's being able to say, okay, this is what we're gonna do. If they gonna load up one side. So let's take this back to writing, right? Right. Let's take it back to screenwriting. So I can have all the talent in the world, right, and not know how to write, right? And one of the things I love when young writers say, well, I could have EDs and INGs and LYs, and I could write in all of the past tense and future present tense. I could write in all the tense I want to write. No, just keep it in present tense. Just keep it present. No, I know, but see, when you read like David Mamet's script, and you read all these other people's scripts and Spike Lee script, they using whatever they want. First of all, you ain't making $30 million. You just started. Learn the rules before you break a rule. Learn the rules of engagement before you break the rule. It's kind of like walking in somebody's house for the first time, right? You don't have a seat. You wait for someone to seat you, right? Hey, have a seat. Would you like something to drink? You take a seat. You answer the question, right? Now do that 10 years, same friend. When you first walk in, you have a seat, right? It depends on your relationship, you make and go in the refrigerator, right? So as a writer, when you first come in the game, you may have all of the talent. It's a lot of talented writers that don't know how to write, right? Because you can use all your talent. You can use all of your talent in the world. Send that script over to Warner Brothers. But it's you're gifted at like this creative writing thing, but it doesn't have the proper structure. It doesn't have the proper mechanics. Like literally you're writing a slang when you don't have to. You're cussing where it shouldn't be no cussing. In fact, you're speaking where it shouldn't even be no speaking.
Wouldn't make it past the script reader.
First of all, you want an agent haven't picked it up. You haven't got a manager who can get it over there, or a lawyer, attorney who can get it, and they don't even accept scripts from individuals like that. So you could be all the talent in the world, but in order to keep yourself relegated, in order to get what you're driving for, whatever your goal is. Most people put up the hardware, an Academy Award. Like, I'm gonna win an Academy Award in screenwriting. Why? Why is that like your goal? That shouldn't be your goal. Should be being able to work in a project-based business. You know how many people have won an Academy Award and didn't really have any more jobs after that? like any good jobs, anything that can sustain their living, their way of life. They moved away from the state of California. They're basically trying to nickel and dime their way through other, other industries in order to make a living. Don't let that be your driving force. Your driving force is you want to stay working in a project-based business. You want to have project lined up in order that pays you, so you're able to take care of your rent or your mortgage, your lights is on, and And building networks and friendships and relationships too as well. So talent versus technique. You can have all the talent in the world, but learn how to do it correctly, and then smash through all of the rules, but right within the framework of the rules.